Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video, I want to share with you all my thoughts on the new abilities being added to Scholar in Final Fantasy XIV's first expansion, Heavensward. Now, this information comes out of the Live Letter 21, which took place on May 21st, 2015. Now, the live letter itself took place at a mediator in France, so there's even more information coming out of that. So we have a lot of things to check all this information by. Not only am I using the official digest in order to conduct this video, but I'm also using the posts over on the Blue Garter forums from Slicer, does the translations for the Dengeki interview, for the Famitsu interview, for the Game Watch interview. Just there's tons of translations in general. So I'm going to be using as many resources as I can to conduct this video. So what do you say we get right into the new abilities for the Scholar? So as I stated with my White Mage video, I might as well just lead with this. We have to remember that Protect was reworked. The trait that Conjurer had, Pro Shell, which added a magic defense buff to Protect, has been reworked so that the Protect spell in general has that effect for all classes or jobs that use it. So Scholar, Paladin, and Astrologian will also have that shell effect on their Protect once the expansion comes out. Just wanted to lead with that so we were clear that is in fact a buff to the Scholar, direct buff. Curious though, people have been asking about adding a new trait in place of Pro Shell. Not so sure they'll do that for White Mage, because White Mage does have Stone Skin too, which is an extra level 50 ability, and they're both not used very frequently outside of, you know, somebody dying in the middle of combat and you needing to give them a re-protect. So curious to see if they'll do anything along those lines. Just keep in mind that Scholar is going to be getting that extra effect on Protect. So to be honest up front, I'm not too excited for the new Scholar abilities. I find them pretty underwhelming, which is why I was kind of saving this and Ninja for a little bit later on in my ability overviews and my thoughts. So the first ability with the Scholar is Indomitability, which is an AoE heal that consumes an Ether Flow stack. So think of it like Lustrate, but AoE. I don't know, it's probably not going to be as strong as Lustrate considering it's an AoE heal, but it's another thing to spend your Ether Flow stacks on. Now at this point you might be wondering, well, does that mean we're going to be getting more Ether Flow stacks if we're getting more abilities to spend the stacks on? And as of right now, the people who went to the French Mediator reported there were no new passive traits from level 50 to 60. So it would seem that you're still pulling from the same 3 Ether Flow stacks, you just have more choices now. Do I need an instant AoE heal? Do I need an instant single target heal and that of Lustrate? Can I use it on some DPS or MP regeneration through Energy Drain? Do I want to Bane to multiple targets? You have a little bit more in terms of options now, which is never bad. It was just odd to see them get this AoE direct heal. They really did try to give them a little bit more direct healing power, and that works really well when you have a double Scholar composition. I imagine these abilities will definitely see a lot more use in that scenario, specifically within the Duty Finder. But let's move on to some of the new abilities. There's not really much to say about Indomitability. So they got 2 quote-unquote tactic moves. One of them is Emergency Tactics and one of them is Deployment Tactics. Now, Emergency Tactics converts the barrier effect of a heal, so an Eloquium spell, to increased healing power. So I use Eloquium as an example, but Emergency Tactics makes it sound like you could use it on both Succor and Eloquium, which makes it make a lot more sense. Basically, okay, let's say you have this. Eloquium crits for 2,000, right? That means it healed for 2,000 and placed a 4,000 point barrier on the target. Instead, with Emergency Tactics active, that Eloquium just would have done 6,000 points of healing. And just like the namesake, it's for emergency heals when you need to get somebody who's at low health up to a high amount of health very quickly, and the barrier is considered less effective. So not bad. Definitely, again, something that'll work really well with the double Scholar composition because you don't need those overlapping Eloquiums anyway. It gives you more of a burst heal that you and your fellow Scholar can work together with. But again, that's something that's really Duty Finder related. In terms of what'll most likely, most raid groups will have 1 Scholar, 1 White Mage, or 1 Astrologian, you know, 2 of the 3. It's just another option in case you need some big heals in a short span. Definitely not bad. Curious to see where it'll be used when in conjunction with a White Mage or an Astrologian, though. And then you have Deployment Tactics. Now, this is really strange to me. I get it, and it's definitely going to be useful. It's just strange the way what abilities it affects. Let me read it. This action extends the effects of Galvanize, which is the effect, the shield effect gotten from Succor or Eloquium, and Eye For an Eye from the target party member to other party members. Basically, it's like a Bane for your buffs, if that makes any sense for a Scholar. Now, the Galvanize effect, I totally understand. Just imagine you crit a Galvanize on, or you crit an Eloquium on the tank, and there's about to be a huge AoE that hits everybody. all you have to do is use deployment tactics on that super crit, and you just created a massive shield that everybody can use to absorb. With things like that, people wouldn't even be considering using like an LB3 on turn 13. Let's just be serious, yes they would. But the Eye for an Eye is so curious to me. I'm trying to think of how many situations have I been like, man, I wish I could Eye for an Eye everyone in the party. Because Eye for an Eye isn't your traditional, you know, defensive cooldown. It's it's supposed to be placed in anticipation of damage. Like, this person's going to take a hit in 10 seconds. I apply Eye for an Eye, and within that 10 seconds, the boss will hit the tank a few times, and then they will probably execute a large amount of damage. This implies there's going to be mechanics in Heavensward where you'll basically want to be like, well, I want to make sure that all these people have Eye for an Eye because a lot of different people are going to be taking a lot of different damage from a lot of different sources. I have a hard time trying to figure out where this really fits in current content. I'm sure there are a few places that if I really sat down and thought about it, I could figure it out. It's just strange. The Galvanize effect is great, though. I mean, that's definitely good to be able to spread that even more powerful shield in place of just having that weaker sucker shield that we are so used to. And the final ability that I want to talk about that we actually know the name of and the effects of is Dissipation. Now, Dissipation takes your summoned fairy and kills them. People are using a lot of different words, you know, desummons or murders or sacrifices. Whatever your decision is, it returns the summoned fairy for some bonus effect. Now, they described it in the official digest as magic power, which, you know, despite being MP as a short, that's not magic power. That's healing and or offensive potency. So apparently in testing, it was shown to be too powerful. So the people who got to play with this ability at the Media Tour in France, it's not going to be the same as the way they experience it. It will be tuned back before the Heavensward launch. Interested, because that would mean that you'd have to do that. And don't get me wrong, scholars have the spare MP generally to do that, do that swift cast, resummon another one. I'm just curious what the potency of it actually was. I wish they could give us a little bit more details about how overpowered it was that it needs to be scaled back, because sacrificing your pet is a pretty big decision to have to make as a scholar. Even if it does mean more healing potency, I'm just going to assume it's something that you'll do when you need to burn DPS on a target, assuming when they mean magic power, they mean both offensive and defensive potencies for healing and offense. Or you just need really, really big heals and the pet's inconsistencies will play in, but then you have the pet cooldown, so unless you swift cast, resummon it, it'll definitely be interesting seeing how Dissipation ends up working into it, especially because now they're going to tune it back, so it just, I don't know. It's hard to formulate thoughts on it because I like the idea of sacrificing a pet. That was something I expected Summoner to get, sort of. But I mean, Scholar's getting it instead, as long as it's good enough to warrant the death of the fairy and the resummoning of the fairy. Because it's not like you're going to be like, eh, I don't need it back. I'm good. I don't need my fairy back. No. Scholars ain't going to think that way. For zerging down certain enemies, for squeezing out that little bit of DPS at the end of the fight, if it's available, of course, there are situations, and squeezing out the extra healing, squeezing out the extra DPS. So it'll definitely fit. It'll definitely be a good ability in practice. I just want to see how effective. That's where my curiosity really lies. And the final ability for Scholar, we don't really know anything about. It's just a new non-elemental magic attack. That's the only thing that's said about it in pretty much all of these interviews. No name is given, no effect is given, just new non-elemental magic attack. So to be honest, Scholar got some neat new things. But to be honest, they aren't very important in probably more casual content like 4-man dungeons. And Yoshi P expressed this as well, that you probably won't see too much of a difference in Scholar's play in standard content, but in content where it's cutting edge and you need this extra AoE heals and you need that extra damage or extra healing from Dissipation, or you need to get the tank up from low HP, you'll probably see these abilities be a lot more useful. And I guess I'm okay with that, but similar to the ninja, it just seems like they're not really taking as many, there's not as many changes to the Scholar as there were some of the other jobs. It's just getting a few more things on top of it. And ever since the Summoner video, I've been curious about pet abilities. At the very, very start of the job actions video, they show Celine. I don't even remember because I'm not looking at it right this second. They show her doing a buff, and I'm pretty sure that's a buff we already have, but there's been no mention of new abilities. Granted, there aren't really many slots available in the pet hotbar for new abilities, but it would be nice to have different types of utilities within each fairy that you can maybe swap in your pet hotbar. That would be pretty cool to have, in my opinion, for both Summoner and Scholar. But there's nothing detailed of that sort. I haven't seen anything along those lines in any of the interviews. In fact, I can double check it live. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Why not, right? Yeah, although I tried to check the jobs out, you know, there's nothing here with the Dengeki interview, emergency tactics, indomitability, deployment tactics, dissipation, all mentioned. Again, here with the Game Watch interview as well, we have Scholar, we have, I am control, excuse me, control effing it in the middle. The dissipation, deployment tactics, I'm not seeing anything regarding new pet abilities, so curious in general to see if they're ever going to go down that route of giving pets new abilities. But let me know what you think about the new Scholar abilities being added to the expansion. Let me know what you think in the comment section of the video below, and be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share for all the latest Heavensward information, news guides, all that stuff. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, and until then, take care.